Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. In yesterday's video, I pruned up my very first bonsai, my Ficus microcarpa that I grew from a seed. Today I'm going to repot it, and I was thinking, well, is it too soon to repot it? I think I just put it in this pot fairly recently. So I checked the playlist for the tree, and this December it'll be 3 years since I repotted it. So 3 years is a good time. I'm going to repot it today. So I'll be bare rooting the tree, sorting out the roots, pruning them up, and putting it back in the same pot. Because I had a lot of new aerial roots on this tree, I placed these wet cloths over the aerial roots overnight, and they're still very, very damp. So that technique worked really well to keep the roots moist overnight. I'll begin the repotting by stripping off all this moss that's grown on the surface of the soil. It's quite thick. And I didn't plant this moss, it just grew here all by itself. So I transferred this tree from the 3D printed pot to this Ficus Bonsai plastic tray pot. And it was quite a jump in size. So I'm just wondering how many roots I'll find on the edges of the pot. It seems like there's lots that have grown out right to the edge of the pot. I guess I'll find out once I get it out of the pot and all the roots combed out. But I think the roots have kind of filled the pot quite nicely. I think it's definitely time to repot it. Okay, I'm going to get the tree out of the pot. I'll take away my wet rags here. You can see the root base is still very damp and soaked. So now I've got to grip the tree and just see if it pops out of the pot. It should. There it goes. It's quite heavy. I'll take the pot away. Like that. Now let's have a look at the roots. See what's developed in like 2.5 years. Wow. Wow. There's like a solid mat of roots on the bottom. That's incredible. Yeah, it's really filled this pot with roots. Okay, so my next step is to start combing out the soil from the roots. So my plan is to bare root the tree, prune up the roots, and repot it in the same pot. So I think I'll have a lot of combing and root sorting out to do. I never imagined it would be that packed with roots. I was thinking that, I had just recently repotted it in this pot and maybe it's too early to repot it, but it definitely isn't. If anything, I'm a little late with the repotting. I never thought it would fill the pot this quickly. That's amazing. Yeah, so it's going to take a lot of sorting out of the roots. I think I'll have to use the end of my root rake and kind of untangle the roots before I can do the actual raking. Okay, I'm going to have to make a little room here for all the soil to go. Combing the soil out from the root base like this is quite a time-consuming process. It's got to be done slowly and carefully. So I think it'll take me at least an hour and maybe longer. So I'll work away bare rooting the tree, and then we'll come back and have a look at the roots. It's been about half an hour. The root work is going well. I am encountering a lot of roots at the edge of the pot that were, I guess you can't say circling around the pot, but they were rectangling around the pot. I'm also finding where I cut off these aerial roots, I had the root base still in the soil. So you can see here is the remains of the root base from that aerial root. Like that. So I found 3 or 4 of them so far. So I'm just working away, combing out the roots, removing all the soil.
There's lots of tangles in here. And the drainage screens, I'm getting those out too. Yeah, the roots sure grew well in this pot, I tell you. That's just good. Okay, I'll continue working away on the tree. I have got most of the soil removed from the root system and a lot of the roots untangled. I'm going to bring it over to the washing station now and start rinsing the roots off. It may take a while. I may have to do a bit of root pruning, re-rinse them. It may take a while. So I'll do that. I'll lift it over to the washing tub, clean up here, and then we'll come back and begin root pruning. All right, here I go into the water. Goes the ficus. Just like that. Make sure I get all these roots in here. Well, the roots are really long. And I'll start kind of washing the roots. Okay, here comes the tree. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of roots. So my first step, I've got to sort the roots out. I've got to comb them out, making sure they're all radial. I need my root rake. Here it is. So a lot of these will overhang the edge of this tray, and I'll just have to cut them off. They're just too long. So I'll do that as I work away, cutting back some of these roots, shortening them. I don't want my root base that wide. So again, you know, roots like this I can cut back. And there's a lot that are tangled underneath here that I need to pull out. There's some more long ones here I can prune back. These ones prune back. I have to be careful handling this tree because it's got these aerial roots. I don't want to break them off or move them out of position too much. So again, all these really long ones can get cut back. Sort of a profile prune just to get the root system back in check, a little more compact. Well, that's better. It fits in the tray now. So now I've got to get them all sorted out and combed out nice and radial. So you can see for the size of the tree, it has a very, very large root base. So I've got to bring that in a little more compact. It's a little too large. Getting them all radial in the tray here. And this is just a serving tray that you use in restaurants. It works quite well for root pruning. You can put water in the bottom. It's a good size for most trees. And you get them at the secondhand stores. And they're very inexpensive. I haven't seen anything better. I've seen rectangular trays with lips and stuff on them, but the lips are too high and they're expensive. They're $60 or $70 usually or more. And And I would spend the money if I found one that was better than this serving tray, but I haven't seen anything yet. I can see these roots. Here's the radial direction, and these two roots are kind of cranked over. That'll have to get fixed. And by fixed, I mean cut off. Yeah, there's a lot of roots that are kind of getting a bit out of control on the tree. So now I'm starting the combing. I did my basic sorting out of the roots with a bit of pruning. There's another one of those aerial roots. The root base off an aerial root. There's a drainage screen. There's another drainage screen. And this combing gets rid of a lot of the matted roots, ones that are kind of crossing and, you know, clogging up areas so water and air, it stops water and air getting to sections of the root base if you get too much matting of the roots. That's why I'm combing out all these matted sections. You can see all the little fine roots that come off. There's another aerial root. And I find, you know, after doing this operation, getting the tree in soil, new bonsai soil, they grow really, really well. Because water, fertilizer, and air can get to every part of the root base. It's not all clogged up and jammed up. So I think these aerial roots will integrate with the root base really nicely. They're a good length. Okay, I think I'm ready to begin the root pruning. So this is the front of the tree. So I have this giant thick root. It started out as an aerial root, and it was very interesting. It had a lot of movement. It kind of snaked along the surface of the soil. And you can see now, it's really, really thick. It's the thickness of some of these, you know, primary branches up here. And it may be time to get rid of that because it doesn't flow down into the soil. It kind of actually comes uphill a bit. And I've always kept it on because it's always been a very interesting root. But I think its time has come that it's just getting too thick and it's just not, it doesn't look good with the tree design anymore. It doesn't make the tree look miniature. I'll give you a close-up of it. So there's more of a close-up, and you can see it's just, you know, like these aerial roots I cut off, it's just too thick. It's getting out of scale and out of proportion. So I'm going to have to remove that. Its time has come, so I've got to see how I'm going to do it. If I'm going to, you know, keep part of it and cut off part of it, or remove it right from the trunk base. And wherever I remove a thick root like this, you'll grow new finer aerial roots around the cut point because there's so much, you know, sap flow in this part of the tree. So it goes right back into here. So I could keep, you know, part of the flare there and cut it off at the angle. So let me get the ratcheting pruners out. Sorry, that may have been out of focus there. So I'm getting the ratcheting pruners out, and I want to cut it on an angle. And I'm wondering if I can get in here or not. Sort of like this, I guess, and then I'll clean it up. So here I go. Big root cut coming up. Click, click, Click. And that one is gone. It looked really good for many years, but it's just, so there's all the roots attached to it. So it's just gotten out of proportion. And you'll find that on the ficus, that roots that once looked really good get too thick and they start not to look good. So I've got to take this cut back more so it flows. It will callus over and heal eventually, and I should get a lot of new roots coming out from that cut point. So I'm going to get my nibblers, keeping, you know, what flair I have going into the soil, because that flair is hard to build back up if I were just to cut it off flush. So that might be as good as I can get that. It's not bad. At least it all kind of flows down now. That root can be rearranged to be a little more radial. Yeah, so that's one kind of big flaw in the root base fixed now. So let me just do a little combing in that area. Let's see what other roots I have growing around here and get those looking the best they can. And it's quite possible, you know, I can arrange these aerial roots to cover that wound up so you'll never see it, which that would be really good if I can do that. I think I can. So it looks in here, I have the stump of one of those aerial roots I cut off, probably this one. So I've got to dig it out. It's in there loose. There it is. If I didn't get it out, it wouldn't be a problem. It would just slowly rot away. But I would like to get it out. Give the roots a little more room in there. Yeah, so there's one of those stumps off of the aerial roots. Still very much alive. And you can grow root cuttings into trees, but I find the top cuttings make a better bonsai. Root cuttings, I don't know, you always see the difference between the original root and the top growth on the tree. Unless the tree gets really, really old, it might disappear, but generally the top cuttings are better to start trees off with. In my opinion, anyway. That's why I don't bother growing trees from root cuttings. And it's more difficult to root them, or not to root them, but to get them to grow. Yeah, so that cleans that area up quite nicely. Now you can see this root here, again, it's not very radial. Radial would be here, and it's kind of cranked over a bit. It's a nice thick root. I can at least, you know, prune this upper part off so it flows into the ground a little better. So I'll do that. Like that. This part sticks up, I can take that off. Trying to get as flowing a roots as I can. And then it kind of divides from 1 to 3 here. So I could take out this middle part, and I think I will. So I'll take this off here. Like that. Kind of gets a division earlier, closer to the trunk of the tree, and it kind of subdivides it. Even though it's not the most radial in the world, I can just prune these tips back on it, making it a little more compact. Roots, you want lots of subdivision in the roots, just like your branches. So here's a root that doesn't go very radial, and I don't think I can reposition it because it comes out at an angle, so I'm going to remove it. And it looks like there's another root below it that comes out at a strange angle too, that I've got to correct. If I can find where it comes from. There it is. So I'll kind of work that one back. Try not to damage the root underneath. That looks better. Okay, what else have we got going on here? Here's another root that kind of crosses. It's not the most flowing root in the world. And again, you know, that started out as a fine little aerial root, and it's thickened up, and it's again starting to look a bit ugly, so off it comes. I'll try and pull it out of here. There. So that makes the root base more flowing. This is the front view, so it's kind of important to get as many roots flowing as possible. Now, there is one thick root here. It came from around the back of the tree here and wrapped. They hugged their trunk really closely, so I left them on. And I don't mind those. They hug the trunk tightly. They look kind of really cool, and they've kind of merged with the trunk, fused with it. And I think that's kind of a good, natural, realistic feature of a ficus, is to have those kind of wrapping roots integrate with the trunk. Now, I've got a few roots here. This one's a little high. I'm going to get rid of that one. This one doesn't flow down very well, but I guess I could move it down. It's not the worst in the world. All these aerial roots can be arranged. Yeah, that really covers up that wound nicely, these aerial roots. It's kind of awesome. This one here, it's kind of sticking out in midair. I have to get rid of it. That one I think I can live with. It's not too bad. Over here I've got this one that kind of sticks up. I'm going to get rid of it. There's one growing on the top of this root I can take off. I'm going to take the bottom part of this root off. I've got some subdivisions here. Same with this one. It kind of comes out radial and then it curves around, so I'm going to take that curly part off. This one, it's pretty weird. It does something funny. I'll take that off. Now, think this one is too horizontal. It's too high, so I'm going to remove it also. Kind of get that root base flowing into the soil. This one's sticking up. This one. Maybe even this one. Let me see. That one's okay, I guess. It flows into the soil. It's not too bad. Now, around back here. So this one's not radial at all, and it sticks up horizontal, so it's coming off. And then this one, yeah, that one's definitely got to be shortened at least to there. Maybe even further. Trying to get it to flow into the soil a bit more. There's some of these upper ones here. Move the upper part of this root. You know, overall the root system isn't too bad. I've done some correction work today. Here's one on top of the root here. I'll take that off. And I could take this one back a bit further. It's already got some subdividing on it. That brings us back around here to that root, which, yeah, it looks good from the front. I'll keep it. Yeah, keep that one. Okay. This root's a little high here. It doesn't really flow down into the soil. It kind of interrupts that. I've got a lot of roots in this area. I don't know if I can separate it. It may be fused or it may not be. It's not fused. I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to try and pry away the remains of it. It's well integrated into the root system. I may just have to, the root goes down in between all kinds of roots, so I'll just cut it off. And this part of it, I'll figure out where that attaches. Back here. Cut that one away also. There. That helps the flow of that a bit more. There's a crossing root here. That's got to come out. How's that looking from the front? It flows better now. It's a little bulky on this side of the root base. I can prune this one back a bit more. And definitely this one back more. Maybe nibble that one away a bit. Just to improve that flow. Can I do more? That is the question. You can always do more. Here's another bit of that root I can get out. I'll have to cut it. So sometimes, you know, you have roots on top of roots, and you can prune away the top ones, and sometimes if you have better ones underneath, you can improve the flow of the root base. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for in this area, is to get it to flow into the soil even better, if it's possible. And you won't know if it's possible until you start digging around, finding all your roots. There's a lot of soil in there. So, can I do anything about this? I could certainly prune this one off. I think that would improve the flow. I've got lots of roots in that area. I think this one too. It's kind of sticking up here. Maybe even right at the base. I did a little more work on some of these roots, taking off some of the ones that were a little horizontal. It was looking a little heavy on this side. It still looks a little heavy on that side, but it's not too bad. I think a lot of this is sorted out now. So I think that's as much root work as I can do on the tree today. I think it's improved a lot. So the next thing I want to do is do a profile prune, just trim up all these long whippy ends of the roots, bringing it in more compact, and then the tree will be ready for planting. So I'll clean up, we'll do our profile prune and plant the tree. Here's a look at all the roots I took off today. Quite a few. Some heavy ones, some light ones. So there's a look at the root base. Looking quite nice, quite ficus-like, which is always good. Okay, I'm bringing the tree in. It was in the water again. And I've got to prune the roots, make sure it fits in the pot nicely. Okay, so you can see the roots out the front are overhanging the edge of the pot. And the roots out the back are also doing the same. So I need to trim those back shorter, so they don't wrap around the pot. So they kind of, instead of growing long and around the edges of the pot, they ramify. So I will get the scissors and I'll start pruning. And I would want the tree in the pot maybe to the back just a little bit. So maybe there. So this is where I'll kind of prune, leaving a bit of space between the roots and the edge of the pot, so they have a bit of clearance to grow new roots without wrapping around. They will wrap around eventually. On this profile pruning, see these long straight sections of roots? It's best to prune them back short so you get ramification, so you're not just have these long thick roots, just like the branches of your tree. Okay, so that's got kind of the front sorted out. The ones off to the side can be a little longer, but again, you know, you don't want these big long straight sections, so it's always good to prune it back. Again, building up ramification, finer roots. but they can definitely be a little longer on the sides because that helps build the flare of your tree at the root base. Here's another one that's too long, so put it off shorter. Could be a little shorter here. Yeah, just like you don't want long whippy branches on your tree, you don't want long whippy roots. So at the back you can see it's quite congested. So I need to see this one's too long. It's got to be pruned back. Every time I look at this Fuku bonsai pot, I think of David Fukumoto. He's passed away, but he has a great website with all kinds of useful information on growing tropical bonsai, especially Schefflera and Ficus. So it's worth checking out, Fuku Bonsai. And hopefully the website and the business will stay active. I don't know. You can see this root is very long and straight, and I probably should prune it back. It's at the back of the tree. I would take it back here. There's a division, but I don't have much on the other side. I have a small root here. I should at least take this end off. I will. If I can get in here. I guess like this. Yeah. That's a little better. Put that one back. Take these ones back a little further. This one could be taken back further than that one. This one. Okay. Well, that's fitting in the pot really nicely. You can see there's room all the way around now for the roots to grow before they start curling around in a rectangular shape. Now let's check the height in the pot. So there's a look at the height of the tree in the pot. I'm not sure I have the front exactly on the front yet, but so that's as low as the tree can go. Right now it's sitting on the bottom of the pot. And it's not a bad height. You can see all the roots flow into the soil. I definitely wouldn't want to raise it much more. And all these aerial roots, you'll find when you have a bundle of aerial roots like this that there's one or two thicken up. And those will be the ones that I keep. And the rest will get pruned away. And once they thicken up, then I'll redo this again. So it goes from one root to 2 or 3 roots, and then keeps getting more ramification as it goes down. So that's the idea of that. So the front of the tree, I've got to get the exact front of the tree. I think think it was more like that. And then because the tree's heavier over this side, I've always pushed it to the left-hand side of the pot. So it's just a little off center, not too far. Somewhere there looks pretty good, and the tree looks vertical. I could come over to the right-hand side just a little more. Still looks a little unbalanced, and I'll show you that from the distance. So there's a look at the tree in the pot. I think that's a pretty good position for it. So when I add my base layer of soil to the bottom of the pot, it's going to be a very, very thin layer. So the tree will almost be sitting on the bottom of the pot. I don't want to raise it any higher in the pot, or I think it just won't look right. So that's my next step, is to get the tree potted up. And it's getting close to dinner time. So I'm going to leave it until after supper. So I'll just put the tree back in the water until I get back. And hopefully I have enough time. I think I will. I don't want to rush it. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I've got to check what soil I have. I forgot to check. See if I have some bonsai soil. So if I don't have bonsai soil, I'll have to mix up some. So the repotting, maybe tomorrow morning. I may have to leave the tree in water overnight. We'll see. I was just thinking, I think I forgot to show you the bottom of the root base. So here it is. I've taken it right back to the wood, pruning back all the roots. Leaving them on, but just pruning them back to a fine covering on the bottom. So the bottom of the root base is as flat as I can get it. It's right down to the wood of the core of the tree. I'm preparing the pot, getting it ready for planting. And Chris Marshall from CM Bonsai sent me this beautiful screening. And he's from Ireland, but he's an Englishman living in Ireland, I believe. And so I'll cut up little squares, put them over all the drainage holes, then add a small base layer of soil and get the tree planted. And there's a rooster outside here. What's the matter? What's the matter? Hey, are you okay? Everything okay with me? With you? Hi, how are you? Is everything okay? You were sleeping in the sun again today, weren't you? Yes, you were. Okay, just making sure everything's okay. I just saw a mouse zip by behind you. Okay, everything's all right. Sometimes the ducks chase him. He's not the bottom of the pecking order, but he's very close to it. He's very shy and timid, this rooster. And he's one of the biggest, so it's just his personality, I guess. You have a good personality, don't you? Yes, you do. And you're my buddy, hanging out in the bonsai area. The 4 night bandits are out today, getting their food. Hello! Oh, they're all running away now. Except those 2 aren't. Hello, guys. Yeah, you're grunting them. Okay, hi, how are you? Lots of... They don't like me here. Hi, hello. Hi, how are you? You doing okay? You're gonna get some food? Hey. They don't like the camera, that's for sure. Hey? You don't like the camera. Get those little paws, get your food. Yeah, get your food. Hi. They do it like we hear. I'm leaving. We'll leave you to it, okay? Yeah, it's lunchtime or supper time, isn't it? I've got my drainage screens in place, so I'm ready to add a base layer of soil. So I'm going to build it up just slightly in the middle where the tree will go. The bottom is slightly concave on this pot, so I just want to get a nice flat surface for the tree to sit on. I think that'll do. That's a good thin layer of soil. So next, I'll get the tree and position it. Okay, here comes the tree. So, here is center. So I want it just slightly off center. Towards the back a little bit. Maybe there. Let me have a look from the front here. Well, that looks a pretty good position in the pot. No complaints about that. Now, I'm just looking for the front of the tree. Yeah, I think that's the front. I think my roots are arranged nicely. I will just kind of comb them out a bit, make sure they're all kind of radial before I start adding the soil, that they're not crossing or doing funny things. And that's all looking pretty good. And I think the tree is kind of firmly down on the pot. And let me just check it's vertical. Looks good from the front view, from the side view. Yeah, it looks pretty good there too. It's just slightly tilting forward. No, I straightened it out there. That's good. Okay, I can begin adding soil now. So here I go. And I'll just, add a bit at a time and work it into the roots. This one root's springing up just a little bit. I might put a stone on top of it just to hold it in place until it kind of grows in that position. So let me find a small stone just to put on there. So here I go. Don't really want the stone visible above the surface of the soil. It should be okay there. Okay, I'll continue adding soil now. Here's a look at the tree in the pot so far. Looking quite nice. Quite the giant root base on it. Wow. It should look quite good as this tree gets old. Several years ago, I was given this product by Connor. It's an expanded glass particle, I think. It's quite brittle. It's sharp, it's porous, it absorbs water. And I thought I'd better use it up. It's been sitting in the bag for years. So I mixed up a batch of it here, and I'm going to try it on the ficus. I think it'll be really good. It holds moisture, not too much, not too little. And it's mixed with my regular turfus. So it's instead of the perlite. It's a little heavier. I think it'll be a good soil. So I'm going to try it out. If I don't like the results, well, I'll repot it in a year or two, put it back in my regular mix. And I'm just using this up. I don't expect it to work any better or any worse than using perlite. Okay, here I go with the new soil. The only disadvantage I would say is the particle size is larger, but with a ficus that might be a good thing. They like lots of air around the roots and frequent watering, so I think the roots will grow in it really well. And I know other people have used this product in their soil with good results. So I'm quite confident it'll grow as well as any other soil. All right, I'll just top it up, level out the soil in the pot. And I won't plant moss yet until I see how it waters, and then maybe I'll, start some moss on the surface of the soil to cover up this product, which isn't very attractive, but I think it's, pretty effective as a soil. From what I hear, it's pretty good. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so now I'm going to stand back and have a look at it and make sure I'm happy with the planting angle and the position in the pot. So let's do that now. Here's a look at the tree in the pot. I think it looks quite good. I'm happy with everything. Yeah. So I'll give the tree a water now. All right, here I go. Well, that's one watering can through. It's starting to come out the drainage holes. So I'll let that sit for a bit and then I'll re-soak it. Now, I noticed when I left those cloths on it overnight that it kind of activated some of the aerial roots. I saw white tips on them. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to wrap the root base with the cloths, and I think it'll help, keep all these roots alive and maybe form new ones also. So I think it'll, as a transition, just until they get established in the pot, I think it'll really help them, because there's a few that aren't really into the soil that well yet, like some of the ones up here. So I think it'll help those grow a little more. Yeah. So that's what I'll do. So before I put the wet cloth on, we'll fly in and have a look at the tree, just so you can see it from a few different angles. I'm going to put the wet rags on the tree now. And I found you can't leave them on permanently because the roots will actually start to grow into the cloth. I found that when I was growing aerial roots before. So you kind of have to leave it on for a while, take it off, and keep an eye on the root system. So I have one more cloth here I can use. I'll just wet that. And these are just cloths, these microfiber cloths. We use them for polishing the cars up and that. They're nothing fancy. Yeah, so that should keep all those aerial roots very, very happy. And I'll just keep this wet all the time. I've done a lot of work to my Ficus microcarpa in the last 2 days. And in fact, I've done a lot of work to it this year, pruning off those thick aerial roots, getting finer ones, pruning the top, and repotting it today. There's a lot of work being done to this tree.
And to create a miniature looking ficus, it takes a lot of work. They don't miniaturize naturally. You have to kind of use a lot of techniques to create a miniature tree. So I'm really happy with the results so far. I think the ficus is developing nicely, and I hope it just keeps getting better and better in the future. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.